And we are back.
We are back, bumblebees.
Episode 17 of Ruminations and Revelations.
Correct.
We haven't done one of these in a while.
We haven't.
We've done months of interviews and other content that's not an R&R. Mm-hmm. However, while recording episode 50, which we just finished like 30 minutes ago, we had a question come up that was going to become a very large side rail and decided not to do it and turn it into an R&R for you guys so we have content that is a Friday episode.
Yeah.
So do you want to read the part of the email just so that we can recap that part and then we'll jump into the discussion?
Yes. Now, as parents to 4 kids, we are working to raise them with those ideas, teaching our sons 13 and 2 to be the heads and strong leaders, and our daughters 9 and 4 to be the submissive wives with traditional roles in the home. What words do you use in conversation with your kids, and how would you define submission in terms they understand, and for the boys to be the protectors and leaders? So one of the first things that we touched on in that conversation was you're not just teaching the young ladies how to submit. You need to teach the young men how to submit. And you were talking about how to be effective leaders, they need to be willing to submit their worries, negative emotions, intrusive thoughts to God.
Right. Okay, so that email was that they were Christians.
Right.
And that they have a traditional marriage and that she submits solely to the husband and he submits to God. And you also addressed in that email that we were reading that at 9 and 4 years old, those were the ages of the girls, right?
Correct.
That you don't need to be trying to explain that submission to them yet.
Yeah, they're still kids.
Right.
They are still navigating being human beings and regulating themselves.
Right. And then we went into saying that you lead by example, right? So like if you have a marriage where you are a submissive wife and your husband is the leader of the house, both physically and spiritually, right? And he's able to lead in the aspect that she was talking about, it means that your husband is also submitting things to God. He is submissive to God. And we're not going to get heavy on the religion aspect of it. I just wanted to clarify that was part of their dynamic. So I think that you need to raise young gentlemen that have integrity, quality of character. They understand what it means to be honorable. You know, they don't talk too much. And by that, I don't mean like blabbermouths. I mean, like they actually don't talk shit and like gossip. Like they have integrity to them. They understand the virtue of silence. Don't snitch. You know, you don't ever raise your hand to a woman. Be emotionally regulated. Like those are things that they see from the parents. So you can try to teach them that all you want, but if you are not leading by example and you are emotionally weak and you don't know how to control yourself when something is going on, your kids are going to see that and think it's okay. We also gave an example in there about how we teach our kids to lie. Like the way that I was taught as a kid, if the phone rang and my mom was like, answer the phone. And if it's anybody other than this person, I'm not here. So I'd answer the phone and be like, yeah, she's not here right now. Can I take a message? She'll call you back. Then when I lie, because she just taught me that it's okay to do so, I get in trouble for it. Like there's a hypocrisy to all of that. And that creates an issue with children as well.
It also teaches them, because I had that same scenario growing up. If it's so-and-so, I'm not here. After that, hanging up, so why did I just tell them you're not here? And then a slew of shit-talking, gossiping, one-sided emotion. So not only are you teaching them to lie, you're also teaching them to be two-faced.
Right. And the reason that I wanted to do this as a standalone episode is because you have women who want to be the submissive housewife or claim that they want that life, but yet will degrade their husband and talk shit to their kids about the dad. And like, we've gotten emails where people are like, you know, my mom never talked shit about my dad. And then 2 seconds later would say things like, my mom used to tell me all the time that my dad was emotionally immature. And I'm like, well, that is your mom talking shit about your dad. Like, that's not how that's supposed to look. That's not a conversation between a mom and a child. You know, you fucking wait until the child's old enough to have that conversation and let them make their own decisions in that. You're supposed to, especially when you're married still, you're supposed to be a unified front raising your children. So those things matter because kids will take on that bias that the parents are dropping. So if there is a positivity bias towards one parent and that parent is constantly speaking negatively about the other, that negativity bias happens. I also wanted to touch on the fact that there are a lot of women out there who have the I don't need a man, man ain't shit, fuck all men, but they're in a relationship with a man.
Right.
And then they have a kid, and the kids get to witness the mom treating the man that way and then grow up with that mentality and wonder why they can't find a decent man. It's because the way that you have been raised to think that men ain't shit, you're going to find yourself in the exact same position.
Right. And I want to do the flip coin of that. We have heard instances of men asking their wife, can you be the stay-at-home mom? Can you be the stay-at-home wife? I want you to take care of everything here. And as time goes on, he becomes resentful over the fact that he has the burden of finances and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, we actually have gotten quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a money control thing.
Right.
The question in that email was not a simple answer. We did go over some of it in episode 50, but it's important to know that there's a lot more that needs to be discussed. That traditional value lifestyle is a privilege to have.
It is.
Right? Like it's hard and finances are difficult. So if you find somebody that has a job that can afford to support a family on one income, you're in a position that's doing much better than most, because there are people out there who truly want that, who just can't swing it financially. So if you're able to have that lifestyle and you're able to show your kids that it's possible, your kids will know that it's possible. They won't believe that it's some fairy tale dream, but the way that you conduct yourself in the home is going to teach those kids the way that they need to conduct themselves in their marriages.
I agree.
What are you doing?
Googling something real quick before I say something. Because unlike a lot of people on the internet, I like to make sure that I have the information before I make a statement.
Okay.
So you said that it is a privilege to be able to have like the traditional lifestyle with the woman or the man staying home, doing the stay-at-home person thing, and the other one working and being able to provide. Why would you say that's a privilege?
Because most people do not find a partner that is financially responsible enough or financially capable enough or willing to work hard enough to do that.
So the definition of privilege is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group.
Right. So that word fits.
How?
Because you are my wife and you have the privilege of staying home and doing the things that you're doing. So the particular group, my wife.
So.
And it is a privilege. It's a special thing that you get because you married a man who is capable of doing those things.
So I do agree that it's a privilege for me. In saying that, like a man providing that lifestyle, I don't view that as a privilege. Like the man being able to provide that as a privilege for the man.
It's
because
not.
The man has worked to get to that point.
Right. No, it's not a privilege for the
Okay.
man. It's a privilege for the woman.
Okay. I wanted to make sure because that's
Yeah.
where I was hung up on that. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how a man providing that is a privilege.
It's not. It's a flex to us.
Yeah, I would say it's a flex.
It is definitely laying the dick on the table and being
Yeah.
like, I fucking am better than most of the men in this room because my wife doesn't have to get her hands dirty. That my wife doesn't go to work and submit to another person.
Yeah.
That my wife submits to me in our household and to God. And to know that we have the fucking dynamic that we have. And she doesn't have to worry about shit. I handle that. Like we discussed that last night on the live stream. There's a lot that goes into that. That is a big deal. That's a huge flex. You know how many people out there who have men that won't even work an extra couple hours a week to pay the electric bill, that are behind on everything, and like the financial stress that comes with that because somebody's not willing to work a little bit extra. Like you do what you're supposed to be doing. And granted, like I haven't always been in the position to do what I'm doing for you. Like that's not always been a case, but it is. Like I've worked to get to that point, and that's the goal. You look at a lot of people who have money that had to make their own money. There was struggle that happened before that happened, and like they might be at a position now where the woman is able to stay at home and do those things, but that may not always been the case. So if you're working towards that, then you two are a team, and that teammate mentality should last forever because you struggled together. So to answer the email, or to there's not conversations that need to be had. For the young men in that household, they need to be taught the ways of the gentleman. They need to be taught that there is an honor to your word, that means more than anything in life. They need to be taught that marriage is more than just a piece of paper, that it's a covenant. They need to understand what a covenant is. They need to understand what you are doing when you are committing yourself to another person. You know, that covenant is not just between the two of you and God. There is a covenant between the two of you specifically. You did that.
I remember specifically what you wanted to talk about.
Okay.
What it means to be in a marriage, because people define it as being a piece of paper.
Right.
And you said, I want to save that for the R&R.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And that, I mean, I was actually, ironically enough, where I was kind of leading the conversation anyways, even though I forgot that I said that in episode 50. I love that you remembered. That's a very, very deep conversation too, because men are told now that there's no point in getting married. And like
Men are told by everybody that you're just gonna be taken advantage of.
Right. There's a
You're gonna
risk
be
to it.
used as a bank account.
Yeah. You're going to lose half your shit.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of conversations that go into that. And the more that that's said, the more that that common understanding or common acceptance happens, the less likely people are to get married.
Right.
But
Why
yet,
push against the wave of things?
right. But yet they're going to fucking have kids and they're going to raise broken children and broken homes because they were not ready to commit to each other. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like that's a problem.
It's all become superficial.
Right. When you,
It's about
go
my
ahead.
needs being met, my trauma being satiated in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
The sanctity of what marriage is supposed to be, it's supposed to be a teammate for the rest of your life. You guys are gonna you know, for better or worse, you're gonna struggle together, you're gonna thrive together. You're committing to actually doing life
Right.
with another person versus doing it on your own, because it's easier to have a teammate. If it wasn't easier to have a teammate, marriage wouldn't be a thing. Like, you know what I mean? And especially now with the ability to not procreate, it's very easy to just be single and fuck everything you want. There are a lot of people out there who are totally okay living that whole life and they're happy with it. But you're going to be 70, 60, 50, 40 years old lonely.
By yourself.
Right. And what happens if you end up actually getting knocked up, or you knock somebody else up and then other people have to raise your kids? Right. And then that speaks into a whole nother conversation of step parenting. Because as a step parent, if the marriage fails or something happens, you don't have access to those kids anymore.
Right.
So if you raise somebody for 10, 15 years and those kids are now taken away from you again, you know what I mean? Like, because your marriage is over, those weren't your kids.
Right.
But all the money that you invested into them and all the time and the parenting and the role that you took on is for naught. You know what I mean? And people don't think about that either, which is why a lot of men don't want to be with women who have fucking kids, because we know that if we get attached to those kids and start parenting that role, we are investing in other lives that we have no right to. They're not ours. So,
And you've seen, not you specifically, but I mean you as in the male gender, has seen too many fallout of getting with women who have children 5-6 years down the line because she's bored or because she doesn't like you anymore. Not only are you losing your woman, you're losing the children that you've grown attached to.
you can take that a step further too. The men who want to be fathers, that's what they want. They find a woman who have kids and like they step into that role, and
This is going to be his life in his mind.
and then he
until he's
adopts the
dead.
kids, and he's financially stable, and the woman goes 6 months, 6 years later, whatever. I don't want to do this anymore, and she leaves. He's adopted those children.
Right.
When she takes the kids, she gets alimony and child support. Like there's a lot of risk.
Right.
And that risk comes because marriage doesn't have meaning to it anymore. People want it because they want the ceremony. They want the
They want
title,
the
but
attention.
they don't want the work from it, right? They want the attention.
They want the attention of, I'm the wife now, I'm the husband now. Let's put on this front for social media, because there are so many people who dictate their life on what is online. Everything else just falls to the wayside. I wanted to touch on, you said doing the life thing together. Like, life is easier when you have somebody there with you. Life is more than just paying bills, maintaining a household. It is getting through the hard days mentally with one another without like a fight to the death. You guys have to remember that everything that you're going through in your day-to-day life, trying to squash your anxieties, trying to remind yourself that your husband loves you, your wife loves you, they chose you for a reason. Getting through all of the bullshit of the negativity from other people and going, oh, I can't believe I have to deal with these people. Your spouse is going through that exact same thing. So when you come home from a hard day, they are also coming home from a hard day. In that moment, you have to be able to go, okay, I'm the husband, I'm the wife. I need to put all of my bullshit aside and be their ear and just let them vent and absorb all of it, and don't make it about you. And when it's your turn to speak and they go, how was your day? Then you can only be like, your day was shitty, listen to this. And then you guys can have a moment of, all right, now we're home. We both talked about our shitty day. We're not going to allow it to negatively impact our view of one another, because there could be a woman who has a rough day at work, comes home and just unleashes all of it on her man, and now he can't do anything right. Life is more than just paying bills and going to work and living that life together.
Right. And speaking on that doing the life thing together, you get to share those victories. When you have bad days, you get through it together. You have somebody to lean on. Like, you could have the worst day in the world and I could have a great day. When you come home and you need to lean on me, I'm charged. Like, I've had a great fucking day. Lean on me. I got you. You know why they have fan sections at sport games?
Fan sections?
Yeah, like
at
the
sport
the
games?
audience. Why they allow
Oh,
people to
yeah.
come and watch sports.
Because it's fun to share all that shit with somebody else.
Because it's not fun to win when people can't see it.
Right.
That's why people flex on social media and try to rent really high-end cars and take selfies like they're fucking balling out. Your successes feel the best when other people acknowledge those successes. If you do a really good job on something, you're like, I did a really good job on that, and then move on and don't celebrate that victory, it's very different than when somebody's like, you fucking crushed that. Like, look how good that looks. You did an amazing job. You're like, yeah, I did do an amazing job. There's a validation from that. You're supposed to be getting that from your partner. That's your cheerleader. That's your cheering section. That's your fucking number one fan when you're doing things. What are you Googling now?
I'm not Googling anything. I'm pulling up a note that I made that's relative
Okay.
to this.
But your spouse is supposed to be the biggest cheerleader. And they're supposed to be cheering you on when you're going through it, not at the end of the game. I don't want you to cheer for me when I've already been successful. I want you to cheer for me when I'm falling behind. I want that Adrian moment in Rocky. You know what I mean? Where like she's on the sideline crying while I'm fighting for my fucking life, and I look over there and she's like, "You got to do this shit." And you knock that motherfucker out and like, "Yo, I fucking did that shit." You know what I mean? Like that's the teammate that marriage is, and that's not spoken on anymore. Now it's, well, I don't know if I might be able to level up. What if I commit to her and then some hotter bitch comes along? Or, what if I meet another man that's got more money that could take better care of me that don't have no kids? There's not like we're going to do this one way or another anymore. What's your note?
It is, today's society has cultivated a culture of women not seeking the approval of their husbands. And my assumption is that they can seek the approval of millions of men on the internet, along with the approval of women who support them seeking the attention of millions of men on the internet versus seeking the approval of their husband.
Yeah. And how lonely is that? Because at the end of the night, when you've put your phone down and you're laying in bed and you're no longer getting the attention from social media.
You guys are on the North Pole and the South Pole of the bed, not touching.
Or there's no one else in the bed because you listen to women on social media. How is that serving you when you're alone at night?
Right.
When you know that you're alone with your thoughts and you turn that TV off because you're almost ready to fall asleep, and then your thoughts kick in. Is this really what I want to do with my life? Is this where I'm going to be? Do I want to spend the rest of my life going to bed alone? What happens if you get up in the middle of the night one night and fall and there's nobody there and you can't get up and fucking make a phone call? You know what I mean?
Laying there in your own bodily fluids.
Right.
Waiting for somebody else to happen by the house. But would somebody happen by the house because you're already so secluded from everybody in life?
Right.
I think about that sometimes. There was a point in my life where if I had an accident in my apartment, it would have been weeks before somebody came, because I wasn't in contact with anybody. I didn't want people knowing my life. I was so bitter towards the world. I was angry at everybody. I had that air of, you don't have the right to me.
Your job's not going to come to your house to see if you're okay.
Yeah.
They're just going to fire you and replace you.
They're going to assume that you have just up and quit and not told anybody.
No called, no showed. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, because the people don't have that relationship. You also mentioned in that little note that you made that people are seeking the approval of men on the internet, and the other women, they're also seeking the approval of their bosses.
Right.
They're putting this matters most on the shoulders of people who don't really matter most, because all of those people are going to be replaced at some point in their life.
And their excuse for that is, well, it's my paycheck.
Right. You could always make more money.
Yeah.
You could always find other ways to do it. You and a good man could create a business together. You could run the administrative side of things and he can get dirty all day long. Like, there are things that you can do to level up. It's not fucking hard. You just have to have a plan. Find something that you're passionate about and start working on it. We see it in the Discord all the time. There's so many people in there who are fucking growing businesses because they've got a good teammate, or because they're now got a baby on the way and they don't want to be where they are in a year where they currently are because they're struggling. It takes a catalyst. Like we've said in the past, there's always a catalyst. Something has to happen in order for things to change. Because if you're just getting by and everything is comfortable, you're not going to ever try to do more because you're comfortable. You don't see a point in it. It's this stagnation. And that's eventually how people fail, because they don't learn new things. They don't try to evolve.
Right.
But this, to tie back into the conversation of the emailer, this is the leading by example. Your kids see you creating businesses and doing life things, and somebody being upset because they had a bad day at work, and the kids come out of their bedroom and mom is on dad's shoulder crying. Oh, mom, what's wrong? And they explain things, and dad's just like, I'm just trying to comfort your mom right now. She's going through it. You're teaching those kids to be emotionally available when the other parent needs it. And If you see dad cry, what the fuck is going on? Because dad never cries. What's happening? And then mom can be the supportive mom. So in the event that a young lady ever gets married and sees her man finally break down, because it will happen, how she responds to that situation will dictate the rest of their marriage. And the way that he is open emotionally with her. Because if he breaks down and she starts berating him, she will never see that side of that man again, because he knows that he's not able to be completely honest with her. And knowing that you can't be completely honest with your person in terms of your emotions, you can't be honest in other things either. Lies are going to start taking place because you know that you are withholding who you are to your partner because they're not accepted for who you are. And that creates a problem too. These are all of this I know sounds not relevant to the beginning of the email that was sent in here and the question that's been asked, but this is how you teach those kids those lessons.
Right.
It's not conversations. They need to see it, because you can talk until you're blue in the face, but until they experience those moments, some of those moments are life-changing. You will never forget seeing those things. And kids are very easily damaged. We're all going to fuck our kids up.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. Everyone fucks their kids up, but to what extent?
People also get super hung up on the word submission.
Yes, they do.
And I'm sitting here thinking about it. Submission does not equate to not defending yourself. It does not equate to giving in to arguments. Like, you can sit there and berate me and I just have to take it. That is not submission.
No.
Submission is you coming to me and we're having a discussion about finances, for example, and you want to spend $15,000 on something. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, I think we can use that money elsewhere. You run the finances. You know what can be moved where and what we have sitting in savings. I'm going to ask you, well, why would you want to spend $15,000? How is that going to benefit us in a year, 2 years, 10 years, whatever it is? How is that going to affect our finances in 6 months? Once my questions are answered.
So in that, then we need to speak on the questioning aspect.
Okay.
Because there are people out there who'd be like, I hate it when she questions me, or I hate it when he questions me. Questions are how you create a plan. If you are just along for the ride and you're the passenger princess through everything, you're not a team.
I'm just a pretty face.
You're a dependent.
Yeah.
I don't want a dependent. I want a teammate. I need to know that, like, the home life is taken care of while I worry about everything else. And you know that everything else is taken care of while the home life is taken care of. You don't have to deal with anything else. That teamwork and that working together is how we are going to thrive in things. There's going to be days that I just can't do shit. And I'm like, hey, I need you to step up. And there's days that you're going to do the same thing for me. Like, my knee hurts. Can you fucking mop the floor? Yeah, I don't want to, but I will. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's teamwork. It's not, I don't know. People get so hung up on that shit. Well, I want to do this, and she's fucking grilling me to the 9th degree. Well, she doesn't understand.
Is she grilling you, or do you have a problem with being questioned?
That was where I was going to go next, because it's not the same thing. How you question people matters too. If you ask the same thing and you keep coming back to it, is it because you don't understand, or because you're trying to make the person feel like they did something wrong?
Are you trying to make them question themselves?
Right. That could be a manipulation tactic and a control thing, and that's not submission either. I don't view you ever asking me questions as a negative, because you don't come at me in a negative way. When you ask me questions, it's because you need to understand what we're doing. And I need you to understand what we're doing. Because if something happens to me tomorrow and you don't understand what everything's happening, that's a problem. Like, it can create a whole lot of fucking issues. This falls into the finance thing too. If you allow somebody to be the head of the household and they're handling the money, and you don't know what's going on with the money at all, you are going to have a whole lot of problems. And we have people say that you should create a backup plan, because what happens if? Well, if you're living your life in case of what happens if, you're telling me that you're not secure enough in your marriage, you know that it's not going to work, or you know your relationship is going to fail. If you believe you need those backup plans, and I'm not saying don't be prepared for things, because it's a very different thing, but if you go into a marriage thinking, I need an exit strategy, that's your trauma talking, or that's you being aware that this is not the right relationship for you.
Right.
You've seen something and your subconscious is giving you fucking red beeping lights that this isn't right, and you're ignoring them. You put a piece of tape over it, and when every once in a while you look over, you can see the light coming from underneath of that thing, and that's your backup plan. I need a backup plan, because you see that little bit of light coming out from underneath of that tape that you fucking masked to try to hide what's going on. Yeah. It all comes down to leading by example. Your kids are going to see everything. I have my stepdad has always done right by my mom. Even when they separated, like he would help pay bills and shit. And she was not good to that man. Never has been. And after fucking, I don't know, 45 years, they're still together doing what they're doing. And she's still not good to that man. That's not a situation that I would ever want to find myself in. And I think that seeing that made me very okay to walk away from people. Because I witnessed the people that should have walked away from each other. Like, you don't want to live in that. And you don't owe anyone anything. So if you're willing to commit to marriage and you know that that's what you want to do, don't ignore that bleeping fucking light, like, because you're committing forever. And granted, divorce happens, and like, it's become very acceptable to be on your third and fourth marriage. I don't want that. I'm on my second. Like, I learned a lot from my first one, a fucking lot. And I don't want to repeat all the shit that happened in that. And I don't want the things that happened to me in that to happen to me either. So like, you live and you learn and you move past things, but I don't know. I don't know. The growth matters, I guess. I guess paying attention to your parents matters too, because you subconsciously take all that in.
Right.
And you're going to raise your kids the way that you were raised. And like, even the shit that you like, the bad shit that you don't want to fall into, like if there was overreacting when you got in trouble, there's going to be times that you're going to get frustrated and your parents are going to come out and you're going to go, oh my God, I just turned into my dad. Oh my God, I just turned into my mom. Like, but that comes into the examples that we're given. So if you want your kids to have this lifestyle and you want them to have a good, happy, traditional value marriage, you have to lead that example so they know what it fucking looks like. And they have to see it in a way that makes it a positive and not a negative. If dad is financially manipulative and doesn't let mom have the things that mom needs, and going grocery shopping is the only time she ever gets to have any type of money or time out of the house, and there's no social life, why would the kids want that? That doesn't sound exciting.
Right.
Kids, they may respect the fact that mom always took care of them and took care of dad, but like, mom had no life. They see that shit. You know, if mom has a card game every other week and she's having social settings and that's when she's thriving and you see her glowing, they're going to know that it's important to be in a relationship where they still have friends and an outside community that they can lean on. But that also speaks into what we were talking about in episode 50 about the community. You have to have a tribe. Like, you need to have your social group. We are social creatures. We need that. You know, we can also talk about non-sexual intimacy and the way that looks to children. Like,
Okay.
and they may not understand, right? So like,
Well, I want to give an example. So for your birthday, our daughter drew you a card. And on the card, she drew all four of us, and she drew me and you hugging.
you guys also made brownies, and we're up until 10:30 or 11 o'clock that night actually making brownies for me, and I got to walk in and experience that. But what I was going to say is there's a non-sexual intimacy like the shaving of my head. If we did, we'd sit down, as they get older and they're up a little bit later, because we always do that at night.
Yeah.
If they were to see me sitting on the floor in the living room and you shaving my head, that is an intimate thing for us. And if they're like, how come you're doing that? You could say, well, I enjoy it. It makes your dad look good. It makes him feel good. Like, so I enjoy doing this. It's just one way that I can take care of him the way that he takes care of me. Right? So then they understand that that's an act of love. That act of service is not servitude. It is an act of love. That also speaks on the act of services. Like, you make that an intimate thing. It's not a big deal. If you have to do laundry and you don't look at it as a chore, you look at it as an act of service to make sure that your family has what they need to have. It's a privilege to do those things. You are serving your family. Just like the man who goes and works a 40-hour or 80-hour work week and comes home and pays all the bills. He's serving his family. And you have to do these things one way or another. Your perception of the reason of the situation and the why of why you're doing it matters. Kids will also see that. Why does dad work so much? It's not so that we can have nice things. It's not so that he can send you to college. It's because he wants to make sure that we are taken care of. Well, I would rather have dad here. Have you ever heard that story where I think it was Tim Grover, said that his daughter, one of his kids, asked him one time how much money he made in a day. And she saved up her money over a course of time, was trying to do chores to save up enough money to pay him for the day to take a day off work to spend time with her. Kids want that quality time. And when you're gone all the time like that and you're grinding to make things work, they don't understand why you're not present. And if you take the weekends to sleep, play video games, and drink, and you're not present with your kids, they see that as well. It makes them feel like they don't matter. And when you have one parent who's actively involved to the nine, and everyone else, the other dad, the other parent, mom or dad, is not at all, there's
They
going to
see
be, they're going to see that as dad's never here, mom's slaving all the time. Why would I want to live that life? They don't see the interactions that happen after they go to bed,
Right.
or how much dad is killing himself to make sure that they have everything that they need. And that's why mom is doing the things that she's doing, and that both of them are serving each other. That the husband is submitting to his boss to make sure that he's able to provide and lead in a way that allows his wife to submit to him. These conversations can be had as kids get older, but you can't have that with a 9-year-old. They're not going to understand that. You know how hard it was for me to be able to explain never to our son the other day?
Yeah.
Like I really struggled to define never because he's 5. Like, even if I could find the right words to do it, I would then have to explain the other words to make him do it. So I had to dummy that shit down to basically that never is a no. It's a definitive no, no matter what. That's never. Like, that's not never though. You know what I mean? So like we had to really, it's hard to have that. And trying to explain that to a 4 to a 9-year-old, you're going to have the same thing. They may have a better concept of what never is because they're 9 and they understand that never just means it ain't happening. But
So up until kids are 7, everything is a fact to them. So it doesn't matter how you explain it to them, this, or that. If they have something in their brain that is the sky's blue and that thing is a fact. If they hit the age of 7, they become capable of having that separation of things, of sarcasm, and what never means when someone goes, "Oh, you'll never do that." Nowhere with
so, well, that's an important point too, because that never is different than, I'm never going to buy you a car.
right. Or like if somebody passes away, you're never going
Gonna
to see them again.
Right. There is the words matter. Like they
Yeah.
change, the meaning changes. Man, we could do this all day long. And speaking on nevers, the way that you talk to your kids, if you think that, you tell your kids you're never going to be anything or you're never going to do that, that
is
crushes
fact.
them, right?
Yeah.
And they will believe that. Well, I can't do that. Why can't you? Right? Can you actually not do that, or have you just not learned how yet? You know what I can't means?
Haven't tried.
I don't want to. That was Sam Alvey's dad told him that.
Yeah.
I just had to say it again. That's one of the coolest thing I've ever heard, because that's exactly what that means.
It's lazy.
I can't means I don't want to. That's what that means. This will come out before Christmas. So just so you guys know that we will not be recording from the 22nd to the 2nd. All episodes that get put up on YouTube or the podcast, that time frame will be reruns from older stuff, maybe even from our old Patreon content from when we first started. So it will be older episodes. But we are trying to at least continue to put out content during that time frame. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye, guys.